The great chamber of the Galactic Council was silent. Hundreds of alien species sat in their seats, their faces filled with fear and doubt. The giant hologram in the center showed a massive threat moving slowly across space. It was a war machine, larger than a moon, created by a forgotten empire. Its weapons could burn planets. Its armor could resist entire fleets. The Council called it unstoppable. The mission to destroy it was declared impossible. To most species, it was nothing but suicide, the councillors whispered among themselves. Some had many eyes, some had wings, some were covered in scales, but all of them showed the same emotion, terror. Every species had received the call to arms. The enemy machine was heading toward populated systems, and if no one acted, billions would die. But still, not a single race had stepped forward. The Andorrans shook their heads. The Krellans declared it madness. Even the war-born Thraxi, who lived only for battle, refused to join. One by one, they rejected the mission. The council leader, an ancient being with glowing tendrils, raised his voice. "We cannot ignore this. Who among us will answer the call? Who will stop this monster before it devours the stars?" His words echoed, but the chamber remained silent. Fear chained them. No one wished to sacrifice their fleets, their sons and daughters, for what looked like certain death. Then, from the back of the chamber, a sound broke the silence. Boots against the metal floor. A group of humans stepped forward, led by a captain with sharp eyes and a scar across his face. He wore no armor, no crown, no ornaments, only a simple navy blue uniform. His presence drew stares from all corners of the chamber. The humans were young compared to most species. Their technology was less advanced, their empire still small. Yet they walked as if they carried no fear. The captain looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of the alien leaders. His voice was calm, steady, and clear. "We'll take the mission." Gasps filled the chamber. Aliens leaned forward, shocked by the words. Some thought they misheard. Others laughed bitterly. The Krellan warlord slammed his fist on the table. "Do you not understand? This is suicide. That machine will crush you before you even get close." But the human captain only shrugged. "Maybe, maybe not. But we have faced impossible odds before. This is just another mission for us." Whispers spread like fire. Just another mission. The phrase echoed in alien tongues, filled with disbelief. How could fragile humans speak so casually about death? The Andorrans hissed among themselves, calling humans reckless. The Thraxi spat, calling them fools. But behind their anger and disbelief, there was something else. Unease. If the humans were willing to face certain death with such calmness, what did that say about them? The council leader tried once more. "Human captain, do you realize what you are volunteering for? Entire fleets have been destroyed by that war machine. Its weapons tear apart matter itself. To fight it is to invite annihilation." The captain met his gaze without blinking. "We understand, and we'll fight anyway." A silence heavier than stone filled the chamber. No one else spoke. No one else volunteered. The decision was made. The humans would go. As the council session ended, alien delegates left in uneasy silence. Some whispered that humanity was insane. Others whispered that maybe, just maybe, humanity was the only species crazy enough to win. Back on their ships, the humans prepared. The fleet was not the largest. It was not the most advanced. But the crews moved with discipline and confidence. Engineers tightened bolts and checked engines. Pilots joked with each other, their laughter echoing in the hangars. Soldiers polished their weapons, some humming songs of Earth. To outsiders, it looked strange. Humans were preparing for what was certain death, yet they behaved as if it was a normal day. The human captain walked among his crew. He stopped beside a young pilot who was checking the wings of his fighter. "Are you ready?" the captain asked. The pilot grinned. "Always ready, sir. Just another mission." The captain nodded, his lips curving slightly. It was the same. Phrase again. Simple, casual, yet powerful. Just another mission. Above the planet, the Terran fleet gathered. Dozens of destroyers, frigates and carriers formed into formation. Their hulls shone under the light of the stars. The alien observers watched from afar, unable to understand what drove humanity. Some called it bravery, some called it madness. But none could deny one fact. The humans were going. In the darkness of space, the enemy war machine moved closer. Its shadow stretched across the stars, and its weapons glowed with deadly power. The galaxy held its breath. Could the humans truly stand against such a monster, or were they marching into their graves? Inside the human flagship, silence fell for a moment as the captain looked at the hologram of their target. His crew waited for his words. Finally, he spoke, his voice carrying through the ship. "Ladies and gentlemen, the galaxy thinks this is suicide. Maybe they're right, but I don't care, because we're not here to survive. We're here to win, and we will. Remember this. For us, it's just another mission." The crew cheered, their voices echoing through steel corridors. Engines roared to life. The human fleet turned toward the impossible enemy. Suspense filled the stars. The mission had begun, and across the galaxy, alien eyes widened, hearts tightened, and whispers spread. The humans are going. The humans are really going. What everyone else called suicide. Humanity had just accepted as duty. The human fleet moved quietly through the black sea of stars. Their ships were not the largest in the galaxy. They lacked the polished perfection of alien designs. Some hulls had dents from past battles. Some engines hummed with age. But still, they moved together like a pack of wolves, steady, determined, fearless. Inside the council chambers, alien leaders watched the live feed with disbelief. They could not understand how humans were so calm. The Andorrans whispered, "Do they not value life?" The Krellans shook their armored heads, calling humanity foolish. The war-born Thraxi muttered curses, saying even they would not dare attempt such madness. Yet despite their words, none could take their eyes away. On the flagship Resolute, Captain Marcus Hale walked the command deck. He studied his crew carefully. Young men and women worked at their stations with focus. Pilots ran final simulations. Engineers ran checks on reactors. Marines cleaned their rifles, some humming Earth songs under their breath. It all looked normal, almost routine. But this was no ordinary mission. This was a fight against death itself. And still the humans smiled. A communications officer called out, "Sir, external channels open. The Council wants a progress report." Marcus stepped into the hollow field. Alien faces filled the projection, eyes, scales and tentacles shifting in the blue light. The Council leader spoke first, his voice heavy. "Human Captain, it is not too late to reconsider. You must understand your species is young. You should not carry this burden alone." Marcus did not flinch. "We understand the risk, but someone has to do it. If we fail on our feet, not on our knees." Murmurs filled the alien side of the transmission. Such words were not common in their cultures. For them, survival meant retreat when odds were hopeless. But humans seemed to have a different definition. Survival meant fighting, no matter what. 1. Alien delegate hissed, "You do not comprehend the scale of this enemy. That machine was built to erase civilizations. Do you really think you can destroy it?" Marcus leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "Do you really think we won't try?" The channel went silent. The aliens had no answer. As the fleet continued forward, tension spread through the ships, but it was not fear, it was focus. In the hangar bays, pilots gathered around their fighters. One of them, Lieutenant Cara Reyes, checked her thrusters while talking to her squadron. "They think this is suicide," she said, tightening her gloves. "But you know what? They've never seen us fight. They've never seen how humans do things." Her squadmates laughed, slapping their helmets in agreement. In the mess hall, soldiers ate their meals like it was any other day. Some played cards, others told jokes. A few quietly stared at pictures of their families back on Earth. They all knew the risk, but none complained. To them, this was not the end. It was simply a challenge. Meanwhile, engineers worked in the belly of the ships. Sparks flew as tools clanged against steel. Chief Engineer Patel shouted above the noise, "I want those engines humming like Earth's heartbeat. We're not giving that machine any easy kills." His team cheered, working faster. For outsiders, it was madness. For humans, it was preparation. On the bridge of the Resolute, Marcus spoke to his first officer, Commander Eleanor Voss. She had sharp eyes, cold but steady. "Do you ever wonder why they all think we're insane?" Marcus asked quietly. Elena smirked. "Because they don't understand us. They think we fear death like they do." "And we don't?" "We fear it," Elena admitted, her voice softening. "But fear doesn't chain us. It drives us. That's the difference." Marcus nodded. He looked at the star map, where the massive enemy machine glowed like a black sun. "Then let's show them the difference." The closer they came to the war machine, the more alien eyes watched. Across the galaxy, screens lit up in homes, stations, and war rooms. Billions of beings stared at the feed of the Terran fleet moving toward certain death. Children asked their parents, "Why are they doing this?" Elders whispered that maybe humans were not like the rest of them. The galaxy had always seen humanity as small, weak, fragile, a young race barely crawling among the stars. But now, that same young race was walking where no ancient empire dared to go, and they were doing it with smiles. Inside the fleet, a message spread from ship to ship. Short, simple words. Soldiers whispered it to each other. Pilots painted it on their ships. Engineers scratched it into the metal walls of their rooms. Just another mission. It was not arrogance, it was not ignorance, it was resolve. The kind of resolve that came from a history of facing impossible odds, wars, disasters, challenges that should have broken them, but never did. Humanity had been forged in fire long before they reached the stars. Now, they carried that fire into the void. When the enemy war machine finally appeared on their sensors, a hush fell across the fleet. The giant weapon of destruction filled the screens. Its size dwarfed their ships. Its power radiated like a storm. Many would have turned back at that moment. Many would have called it hopeless. But the humans only straightened their backs. On the bridge of the Resolute, Marcus gave the order. "All ships prepare for engagement." His crew answered in unison, their voices firm. "Aye, sir!" Engines roared, shields powered up, weapons came online. The human fleet locked into formation, small against the enormous shadow of their target, and yet not one of them wavered. The galaxy watched in silence, hearts racing, minds unable to grasp it. For every other species, this was suicide. For humanity, this was resolve. And so, the impossible mission truly began. The void of space trembled as the enemy came into view. The alien war machine was not just large, it was monstrous. Its black hull stretched for kilometers, shaped like a jagged blade, cutting across the stars. Pulses of red light burned along its surface, each one a weapon that could vaporize a city. To the human fleet, it looked like death itself had taken form. On the flagship Resolute, alarms echoed. "Target locked," the sensor officer reported. The screen filled with the glowing outline of the machine. Its power readings were beyond anything the crew had seen before. Entire alien fleets had vanished, trying to face this beast. But not. One human voice trembled. Captain Marcus Hale stood at the center of the bridge. His eyes narrowed. "All ships, form up, engage attack pattern Delta." Engines roared to life. Dozens of human ships shifted into formation, weaving through the blackness like arrows in flight. The galaxy watched as humanity charged straight. into the storm. Then the machine awakened. The first beam fired. A lance of red fire cut through space, tearing apart a human frigate in an instant. Flames burst across the void as the ship broke into fragments. The crew barely had time to scream before silence swallowed them. Gasps erupted across the Galactic Council chamber. Aliens watching the live feed whispered in horror. "They are doomed," one said. "It has begun," muttered another. But on, the Resolute, no one hesitated. Commander Eleanor shouted, "Frigate down, but formation holding." Marcus clenched his jaw. "Maintain course, we knew the cost." The fleet pressed forward. Fighters launched from the carriers, streaking ahead like a swarm of steel hornets. Their engines blazed blue against the dark. They darted between the machine's beams, firing volleys of missiles at its armor. Explosions rippled across its surface, but the machine barely slowed. Its armor was too strong. One pilot, Lieutenant Cara Reyes, gritted her teeth as she dodged a beam that barely missed her wing. "This thing's a fortress," she shouted into her comms. "But even fortresses can fall." She launched her missiles, striking at a weak point. The blast lit up the void, and for the first time, a scar appeared on the machine's surface. Her squadron cheered. Hope flickered. The machine responded with fury. Hundreds of drone ships poured from its sides, dark and sleek, like vultures released from a carcass. They swarmed the battlefield, firing streams of plasma. The sky lit with chaos. Human. Destroyers opened fire, unleashing railgun rounds and torpedoes. Explosions shattered drones into pieces, but more kept coming. Fighters weaved and spun, dodging enemy fire, sometimes colliding, sometimes burning out in silence. The clash shook the galaxy. On Earth and distant colonies, people huddled around. Screens holding their breath as news feeds showed the battle. Mothers clutched their children. Fathers prayed. Soldiers, far from the front, whispered the words carried by the fleet. Just another mission. Back in the council chamber, alien leaders leaned forward. Some could not believe what they were seeing. The humans were not retreating. Even as ships fell, even as losses grew, they pushed forward. Every time the machine struck, the humans struck back harder. A Creelan warlord whispered in awe, "They laugh in the face of death." On the Resolute, Marcus gave his orders calmly, his voice steady, even as the ship shook under enemy fire. "Target those drones. Keep our carriers safe. Fighters, punch a hole in their defenses." One by one, human ships made sacrifices. A destroyer placed itself between a carrier and a deadly beam, taking the hit and breaking apart. But its last act saved hundreds of pilots who were still fighting. A frigate rammed into a swarm of drones, detonating its reactor and clearing a path for others. Each sacrifice was not in vain. Cara Reyes's squadron pushed through the chaos, cutting closer to the machine's surface. Her comms buzzed with voices, some filled with courage, others with final screams. Yet she pressed forward, her eyes burning. "We can hurt it. We will hurt it." Her missiles struck again, hitting near the first scar. The machine shuddered, sparks flying across its black armor. For the first time, it seemed vulnerable. Marcus saw it too, his fist clenched. "All ships, concentrate fire on that point." The fleet obeyed. Torpedoes, railgun rounds, plasma bursts, all converged on the scarred section. The void filled. With light as explosions pounded the same spot again and again. The war machine trembled, its armor beginning to crack. The galaxy gasped. Was this possible? Could the young human race actually wound the unstoppable? But the machine was not finished. Its core pulsed with a deep crimson glow. Suddenly, a massive energy wave burst outward, sweeping across the battlefield. Human ships were thrown into chaos. Shields shattered, systems failed. Entire squadrons vanished in blinding fire. Kara's fighter spun out of control, alarms blaring. She gripped the controls, teeth clenched, fighting to stabilize. "Not yet," she growled. "I'm not done yet." On the Resolute, sparks rained, down as consoles exploded. Crew members shouted, some falling, some bleeding, but none abandoning their posts. Marcus stood tall amid the smoke. His voice cut through the chaos like steel. "This isn't over. Hold the line. We keep fighting." The humans obeyed, rallying once again. Despite the destruction, despite the losses, they pressed on. To every alien watching, it was unthinkable. No other species would have endured this much. No other race would have kept fighting when all seemed lost. But the humans did. They refused to break. The clash continued, fire and steel tearing across the stars. The impossible battle had begun, and though the galaxy called it suicide, the humans called it duty. And with every strike, every sacrifice, every scar carved into the enemy, the galaxy began to wonder. Could the impossible actually be done? The battlefield burned. Space itself seemed to scream as fire, wreckage, and broken ships drifted in the endless void. Human voices still echoed across comms, shouting orders, warnings, and final goodbyes. The alien war machine was wounded, but not defeated. Its core glowed with red fury, its armor still holding against the relentless human assault. On the Resolute, Captain Marcus Hale gripped the railing, his eyes locked on the scar their fleet had carved into the monster's black surface. Smoke filled the bridge, consoles sparked, and officers worked frantically to keep the systems alive. "Status!" Marcus barked. "Shields at 30%, Elena Voss answered, her voice calm but sharp. "Weapons still online, but hull damage severe." The crew was exhausted, but none faltered. Every officer, every soldier, every pilot, they all knew the stakes. If they stopped, the galaxy would burn. If they failed, billions would die. There was no retreat. Then came the moment no one expected. One of the smaller human frigates, Valiant, broke formation. Its engines flared brighter than ever as it surged forward, racing directly toward the scar on the war machine's surface. On the council feed, alien leaders shouted in shock. "What are they doing? They're charging straight into death." Inside the Valiant, the crew moved with grim determination. Their captain, a grizzled veteran named Jonas Reed, stood tall at the helm. His voice was calm, almost gentle, as he spoke to his crew. "We all know what's coming. This ship doesn't have enough firepower to break that armor, but we can open the door for the others. Are you with me?" There was no hesitation. Voices filled the comms. "With you, sir." "Till the end." "For Earth." Jonas smiled. Faintly, a man at peace with his fate. "Then let's make it count." The Valiant pushed faster, drones swarming to intercept, plasma fire tearing across its hull. The ship shook violently, alarms screamed, but the frigate did not stop. Its guns blazed, cutting down drones even as the enemy ripped it apart piece by piece. On the Resolute, Marcus shouted, "Jonas, fall back! That's an order!" The comm crackled with static, then Jonas's voice came through, steady and unbroken. "Sorry, old friend. Orders don't matter now. This is bigger than us. Finish it for me." The Valiant drove straight into the scar. Its engines burned white-hot. Then in one final act of defiance, Jonas and his crew overloaded the reactor. A blinding explosion ripped through the monster's armor. Fire and light tore across the surface. For the first time, the war machine screamed, a deep, metallic roar that shook the stars. Its shield flickered, its core exposed for a heartbeat. Silence gripped the galaxy. Aliens watching the feed stared in awe. The impossible had just happened. A single human frigate had given its life, and in doing so, created the first true wound. In the unstoppable beast. Marcus clenched his fists, his jaw tight, grief in his eyes but fire in his voice. "All ships, target the breach! Pour everything into it!" The fleet responded instantly. Railguns fired, torpedoes streaked, fighters dove into the gap. Cara Reyes and her squadron led the charge, weaving through the chaos, unleashing their payloads. Explosions lit up the breach again and again, tearing it wider. The war machine lashed back, firing beams that shattered destroyers and consumed fighters. But the humans did not stop. Every loss only made them push harder. The sacrifice of the valiant had ignited something stronger than fear. In the council chamber, alien leaders watched with wide eyes. The Kreelan warlord who once mocked humanity whispered, "They fight beyond reason." The Andorran delegate, trembling, said, "They fight beyond life." Kara's fighter dived dangerously close, her missiles slamming into the glowing core. Her ship shuddered from the blast, alarm screaming. She barely pulled away, her voice ragged but triumphant. "Direct hit! The core is unstable!" Marcus seized the moment. His voice thundered across every channel. "This is it. Humanity stands here, and humanity does not break. For Earth, for every world depending on us. Fire!" Every remaining ship unleashed its fury. Railguns roared, cannons blazed, torpedoes streaked. The void lit up brighter than a sun as the combined firepower of the fleet hammered the wound. The monster's shield shattered completely, fragments of its black armor drifting into space. The war machine convulsed, its red core exposed and burning wildly. It was not defeated yet, but for the first time the galaxy realized it could be. The sacrifice of the valiant had turned despair into hope, but victory was still far away. As the fleet pressed the attack, the war machine unleashed another wave of destruction. More drones poured out, endless as shadows, beams fired wildly, striking. Ships tearing holes through hulls. Human losses mounted with every second, and yet they did not fall back. The words whispered across the fleet again, spreading from dying ships to fighting ones, from captains to soldiers, from pilots to engineers. Just another mission. The galaxy watched in silence, hearts pounding, unable to believe what they were seeing. Humanity was bleeding, burning, dying, yet advancing, and in that fire, the galaxy saw something terrifying. Humans did not fight for survival alone. They fought because giving up was never an option. They fought because even in death, they carved a path forward. This was the turning point. The impossible had just become possible, and for the first time, the galaxy began to fear. Not the machine, but humanity. The war machine screamed. Its armor was torn open, its red core burning like a wounded heart. Light spilled across the battlefield as explosions tore chunks from its black surface. Yet it did not fall. With every wound, it fought harder. Beams of energy slashed across the void, carving through human ships. Drones still poured from its sides like rivers of fire. The human fleet was battered. Half their ships were gone. Carriers burned. Destroyers floated lifeless. Fighters scattered like sparks in the storm. But still, they did not stop. On the flagship, resolute smoke filled the bridge. The crew was bloodied and exhausted. Consoles sparked, wires dangled, alarms wailed. Yet every officer stood at their station, refusing to abandon the fight. Captain Marcus Hale stared at the burning core on the screen. His jaw was tight, his voice steady. "We're not finished, not yet." Commander Elena Voss looked at him, her eyes fierce even through the smoke. "If we don't end it now, we won't get another chance." Marcus nodded slowly. He tapped the comms. His voice carried to every surviving ship, every fighter still alive. "This is humanity's stand. Billions are watching. Billions are counting on us. We may not all make it back, but we will finish this. For Earth, for every world, for every child who deserves a tomorrow. Remember this. It's just another mission." A cheer spread through the fleet, weak but strong at the same time. Pilots whispered the words, soldiers repeated them, engineers tightened their grips on burning. Controls, just another mission. The fleet surged forward one final time. Fighters dove toward the glowing core, weaving through drones and beams. Destroyers unleashed everything left, railguns, torpedoes, plasma bursts. The void became fire, a storm of light and destruction. Cara Reyes led her squadron into the heart of the chaos. Her fighter shook, warning lights flashing, but her eyes were locked on the core. "This is for the valiant. This is for everyone we lost." She fired her last missiles, slamming them deep into the wound. The core pulsed violently, cracks spreading across its surface. The war machine roared, a sound like the death of a world. Its beams fired wildly, missing targets, carving empty space. It was weakening, but it was not enough. Marcus stood tall on the bridge of the Resolute. He knew what had to be done. "Elena," he said softly, "prepare the main reactor, overload it." Elena's eyes widened. "That will destroy the Resolute." "Yes," Marcus said. His voice was calm, almost peaceful. "But it will take the machine with us." For a moment, silence filled the bridge. Then Elena straightened and nodded. "Aye, sir." The order spread. Engineers rushed to reroute power. The ship's systems screamed as the reactor overloaded. The Resolute began to glow from within, its engines burning brighter than ever. Marcus opened a final channel, broadcasting across the fleet and beyond, to the galaxy watching in silence. His voice was steady, firm, unshaken. The galaxy called. This suicide. But for us, it was duty. If humanity falls today, remember this: we fall standing, we fall fighting, and we fall as humans. Finish it with us. The Resolute surged forward, engines blazing, tearing through waves of drones. It charged straight into the war machine's wound. The council chamber erupted in shouts. Aliens leaned forward, horrified, stunned, unable to look away. Billions across the galaxy held their breath. The Resolute struck the core, and then light. A blinding explosion shook the stars. Fire and energy tore outward, engulfing the war machine, ripping it apart from the inside. Its black armor shattered into fragments. Its red core screamed one last time before bursting, scattering into dust across the void. Silence followed. Silence. So deep it seemed the galaxy itself had stopped breathing. Then the wreckage floated free. The unstoppable was gone. The impossible had been done. The human fleet was shattered. Few ships remained, but they were alive. Kara Reyes's fighter drifted through the smoke, her voice breaking over comms. "It's over. We did it." Survivors wept, laughed, screamed in disbelief. They had faced death, and they had won. In the council chamber, no one spoke. Aliens who once mocked humanity now sat frozen. The Kreelan warlord, who once called humans fools, whispered with awe, "They are not like us, they are something else." The Andran delegate trembled. If this is what they do when they call it just another mission, what will they do when they fight for their own survival? Fear spread quietly among the stars. Not fear of the war machine, it was gone, but fear of humanity. A young race, fragile and small, who had faced death without hesitation and turned suicide into victory. On Earth bells rang. Families cried and celebrated. The galaxy would never forget the day humans faced the impossible, and from that day forward, no species dared to call them weak again, because the truth was now clear. For others, it had been suicide. For humans, it was duty. Just another mission.